What's up, everybody? It's Josh, and we need to talk about Andor. And no, this is not clickbait. I really don't like Andor, and I really am done with Star Wars. I'm going to keep most of it over on Nerd Theory. I'm probably not going to talk about Star Wars a lot on my streaming channel. I'm not going to talk a lot about Star Wars on my main channel, and I will get into that, and I want to explain, the situation with that. For me personally, I really don't connect with this show at all. I find it to be very boring. I find it to not feel like Star Wars. This will be my one and only video talking about Andor. After this, I'm done talking about Andor. I'm not going to be doing breakdowns. I'm not going to be doing watch parties. I probably won't even do an end cap video when it's all said and done. I'm just pretty much over it. I mean, I have not made it a secret. I'm really jaded on Star Wars. I'm really angry at what Lucasfilm has become. I'm not happy as a fan at all. And so, I tend to go really hard on them. I tend to judge their stuff a little bit more harshly. And I guess I just kind of have come to realize that the best thing for me to do is to just take a step back.
Hello there, this is Darth Melvin, leader of the Knights of Melvin. There has always been a division in the Star Wars fandom. In the era of George Lucas, people were grouped based on whether they liked the prequels or not. You may think disliking the prequels is a ridiculous concept, yet the discussion was always based on the content of Star Wars. Many thought the prequels didn't live up to the quality of the original trilogy. After the sale to Disney, these groups became more complicated. I've done my best to classify the Star Wars fandom: real fans, fake fans, Disney shills. I find a major factor that determines if you support Disney Star Wars or not is not whether the content is good. It is based on one's arbitrary standards for toxicity.
Oh, shut up! You're toxic!
In simple terms, I say Andor is a bad show. One may take offense and call that statement toxic. They naturally will side with the opposing group, the quote-unquote non-toxic side. Whether this person likes the show, loves the show, hates the show, that is not relevant. They are aligning themselves with the group they perceive to be less offensive and, in their minds, less toxic.
Good is a point of view, Anakin.
Good is a point of view. In the US, we have Republicans, Democrats. Both think their side is the right side. It's the good side. But what determines who is right, who is good? As for Star Wars, what determines toxicity?
What is toxic? How do you define toxic? The name of the game: respect the IP. Make good Star Wars. Right, but if the fandom can get along, it's advantageous to everyone, correct? No. It's all a fugazi. You know what a fugazi is? Fugazi, it's fake. Fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's fairy dust. It doesn't exist. It's never landed. It is no matter. It's not on the elemental chart. It's not fucking real.
Toxicity is not real. It's a point of view. Despite that, this word and practice of identifying other Star Wars fans as toxic has spread through the community. From my experience on the YouTube platform, I've seen a lot of people who claim to not like Disney Star Wars get very upset by their arbitrary standards for toxicity. In result, they end up defending Disney Star Wars, something they claim to not like. I personally have an issue with this because I hate Disney Star Wars. I don't consider it canon. I spend my time trying to turn people to the dark side and reject Disney. It's troubling when I see someone who recognizes the failure of Disney, yet they care more about toxicity in the fandom than the actual Star Wars content. I've observed that the only side that is labeled toxic is the side that criticizes Disney Star Wars. Like racist, sexist, I've seen many people weaponize the term toxic. They do so to defend Disney Star Wars, delegitimizing the opposition. They may also do so for the dopamine rush of a Twitter like. People have caught on that calling others names generates responses. One doesn't have to really care about another's toxicity level, but they do care about the recognition from their peers via a social media like. I am part of the group of Disney haters that gets labeled toxic all the time. If we divide the fandom into two, toxic Disney Star Wars haters and Disney Star Wars lovers, I'd argue that the groups are similar in a lot of ways, including their levels of toxicity. Both sides are toxic. The major differences are the Disney Star Wars lovers support an inferior Star Wars, and they're a bunch of crybaby pussies. The Disney lover side is just as toxic as the other side, if not more. They are pretentious and highly hypocritical. They are guilty of the same gatekeeping elitist behavior as the other side, the mythical, non-existent fandom menace. Josh from Den of Nerds is a content creator who doesn't align with my side of the fandom. He is on the Disney lover side. Yet, when he falls out of line, he goes off the scripted narrative. The Disney lovers have a problem with it. Josh saw the first 3 episodes of Andor and flat out didn't like it. He had his reasons. He said it was boring. It didn't feel like Star Wars. With all this talk about toxicity, Josh felt he didn't want to continue covering Andor for the next several weeks. He did so because he thought it would mostly be negative content. He didn't want to contribute to the toxicity in the fandom. He'd rather just let it be and take a break from Star Wars and focus on more positive content.
I'm gonna come across so bitter and just like overly negative. And to be honest, like there are a lot of channels that sort of, corner the market on, right. And I'm just like, that's not really what I want to do with the channel. It's not really what I want to do with the brand. So it's better that I kind of just take a step back.
In a world where the Star Wars fandom is run by crybabies that whine about toxicity all the time, you'd think Josh would be doing them a favor. Hey, I won't trigger you with my videos. I won't make them. I won't collect the ad revenue. You'd think the fandom would accept Josh's opinion and embrace his decision to not generate negativity from his channel, something that these fans claim to care so much about. No, they were mad. They didn't care about Josh contributing to any toxicity. They cared that Josh didn't like the show. They cared that he had the wrong opinion of the show. How dare he not like Andor? He's supposed to like Andor. There's something wrong with Josh because he's not falling in line. When he announced it on Nerd Theory that he didn't like Andor and wasn't going to be covering it, check out the toxicity in the chat from all the Disney lovers. This is supposed to be the respected side. They're not part of the evil fandom menace. Oh my god! They are what every Star Wars fan should be, obedient and non-combative. Unless, of course, they're bullying someone from the other side. Someone who actually doesn't like their Disney Star Wars. Then it's okay. This is hypocrisy at its finest. As Andor went on, this kind of behavior displayed by Disney lovers only grew. Anyone that didn't fall in line and submit themselves to Andor, the creation by Tony Gilroy, was deemed an unworthy Star Wars fan. Their adulthood was stripped. Only a child wouldn't like this show. They accused people of only liking cameos, too much action, pew pew, and lightsabers. All of a sudden, lightsabers became a negative thing in the Star Wars community. That was frowned upon. As each episode aired, these fans became more and more upset with any Andor criticism. They targeted Josh's streaming partner, Star Wars Theory. Because Star Wars Theory revealed he didn't like Andor in his watch party, he said it was boring and didn't feel like Star Wars. The group that whines about opinions all the time couldn't handle his opinion. They ratioed the watch party. They left nasty comments. They flooded Twitter and Reddit with more anti-theory shit. Why? All because he didn't fall in line with their narrative. His opinions were deemed unworthy and his punishment a full-on internet assault. This behavior is toxic. I am a proud toxic member of the Star Wars fandom. I am also a Star Wars gatekeeper. I reject Disney Star Wars as canon. I am a Star Wars elitist. I decide who is a fake fan or a real fan. The difference is, I admit it. I embrace who I am. The other side, the Disney lovers, they are guilty of the same crimes. They are toxic members of the Star Wars fandom. They are gatekeeping Star Wars. Look how they treated Josh, how they treated Theory. They are Star Wars elitists. They can mistreat people for having opinions on Star Wars, but if someone from the Fandom Menace does it, it is completely unacceptable. The major differences between us is they don't admit who they really are, and they support shit-ass Disney Star Wars. If someone like Josh is watching this video, give yourself to the dark side. The larger point I'm trying to make is really a pitch to those who find themselves in the middle of this greater conversation of what's good Star Wars and what's bad Star Wars. Toxicity is like fairy dust. Everyone in the fandom is guilty of questionable behavior, regardless what side you're on. Whatever group you determine to be the most toxic is irrelevant. You need to look at what's actually important. The Star Wars itself. We have George Lucas Star Wars and Disney Star Wars. Disney Star Wars is complete trash. Only through me can we discredit Disney canon and hashtag avenge Star Wars. Become a knight, subscribe to the channel, join the Knights of Melvin Discord, help plot to take down Disney and all their shills.
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.